America is a land where many people come with hopes and dreams, but for many people, it's very complex to understand the system.
This is Mei Hua Moa. She first arrived in the U.S. with the immigration wave of Hmong people from Laos in the 1970s. Like most of the refugees at that time, she has become an American citizen and lived in Wisconsin for more than 30 years. In the midterm election, Hmong Americans voting is crucial to a swing state like Wisconsin. But as an ethnic group coming from Southeast Asia, many Hmong people in the community still have difficulties in understanding the political system here.
We had to take part in educating our people why it's important to make their voices heard through voting.
The Hmong people lived in China for centuries, but they had their own culture and language separate from the Han majority. In the 19th century, they left due to increasing conflict with the Qing dynasty. They settled in what is now Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, and Burma. A majority of the Hmong population in the U.S. now came from Laos.
We come from a background where we didn't have very much choice in politics.
During the Vietnam War period, the CIA organized a secret army composed of Hmong people to fight for the United States in the Laotian Civil War, which is also called Secret War by CIA.
There was fighting between the neutralists, the royalists, and also the Lao Isara.
This is Cherkau Vensei Vong, a 67-year-old man who experienced the Secret War in Laos as a soldier.
Because of the war, there was no more salary, so everybody became poor and there was no work. The only jobs that were available was to be a soldier.
There are only losers. The Americans have lost 46,000 killed. In all, nearly 1 million men.
At that time, the communists took control of the country. That's when I decided to leave also. I was able to get to Ban Vinai refugee camp in Thailand. At that time, I still thought that my dad was going to come to America, so I waited 3 extra years to see if he was going to come to the refugee camps. Unfortunately, soon afterwards, they arrested my father and put him in a concentration camp, and he died in the camp.
Ooh, to Cheng.
I was very sad.
After the failure in the Secret War, the majority of Hmong people like Cherkau fled the country to Thailand. 90% of Hmong refugees have been resettled in the U.S. When they first came to the United States, they met a lot of difficulties.
And so we don't always participate in election. And that is not because we don't want to, but we're just not used to it and we don't fully understand it. As we continue to live here in the United States, we are learning a little bit by a little bit.
In Laos, I did have educational training, but here in America, I understood only a little bit of English. If it's simple phrases and sentences, I'm able to understand, but if it's more complex than that, I have trouble understanding at that time. That was in 1981. When I moved here to Milwaukee, I was very poor. They paid $8 an hour. And soon afterward, President Reagan was elected President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, today I'd like to talk about jobs for our people. Now, without sounding too much like I'm giving a lecture, there are 2 basic types of unemployment.
I am not very good at English, but I understood under President Reagan, the economy became better. I don't like public assistance. I don't like free handouts. I am able to buy whatever I want. And so I believe in the political party that is going to support the economy, job growth, lower taxes. That is my belief.
On the other side, Mai Hua has a different focus.
Cancer and chronic diseases like hypertension and diabetes, because these are very prevalent in the Hmong and Southeast Asian community. The challenge is that we are such a small community compared to the whole state. And we are the minorities of the minority. And so there's not enough data collections out there. Unfortunately, we have the Affordable Health Care Act way back, but it didn't seem to work very well for us here in Wisconsin. And so because of that, we had to take part in educating our people why it's important to make their voices heard through voting for causes, not for parties at all.
Voting for causes, not for parties. This is the way Hmong Americans vote. Also a reason why many Hmong Americans are independent voters. In the 2016 post-election National Asian American Survey, 80% of Hmong respondents chose to identify as independent or nonpartisan voters. Cherkau is one of them. This time, he voted for Democrat Tony Evers for governor and Republican Ron Johnson for senator. But the reason is not related to the topic he pays attention to. Instead, it's because he's familiar with their names. His nephew Amorse Vaughn introduced him to Governor Tony Evers when he asked him to attend a meet and greet event for the then candidate. It made a big impact on his voting.
So all of the ads on TV that the candidates are paying millions of dollars for, they don't get to the Hmong people. So that's why if you come here, you shake a hand, that's almost an automatic vote for the candidate. And that's going to be very important because all of these elections in Wisconsin are very tight. It could go either way. They could make a very strong swing vote.
Politicians in Wisconsin know about Hmong Americans' preference for voting, and they take action on that. Tony Evers, the governor of Wisconsin, often goes to Hmong community in person. He signed a bill to order the U.S. and Wisconsin flags to be flown at half-staff to honor Hmong Lao Veterans Day this May. And he won his re-election campaign for governor this time.
If they want our votes, they need to come to us. They need to share what their platforms are. And we need to also listen and ask hard questions to make sure that we get the right information so we know how to vote.